Hey guys, so what some people have been asking in previous videos is what spec I am, and from my controller video, what do I think a good spec for PvE controlling is. So I figured I'd do a video on it. What I've done is I've reset my points, my power points and my skill points. I did actually accidentally already spend 3 of my power points. I thought the video was recording when it wasn't, but I managed to catch that before I used many more than that, and I've also got my 25 skill points. So the one thing is your skill points, they could be more than mine, they could be less than mine, assuming you're level 30, depending on how many investigations and sort of extra side feat points that you've collected since you've been leveling. So that one you have to take as how many points you've got. You could have, say, 20, you could have 30 or 40. If you have more, great. If you have less, then you'll have to work around what I sort of do. Basically, this is a mental controller, so this is going to be for hard alerts and raids. I don't think it's going to be too good for your PvP. If you prefer PvP, this won't really be a good spec for you. You've got your 3 power sets: Telekinesis, Illusion, and Iconic Powers. You're going to go into all 3 of them. So the first one you go into is Telekinesis. You have to put 1 point in the first ability anyway, so you pick up Telekinesis. It just so happens that it's a good ability anyway, so it's going to lift an enemy in the air, which is your CC part, and it does some immediate damage, usually around 70 to 100, and then it will throw a random object if there's one nearby, hit them, do some more damage, and it will restore group power over time. Physic Empowerment is another must-have ability for a PvE controller. It will restore power to the 3 most fatigued group members. Usually it's going to be around a 15% restore, but it depends on your vitalization stat. Tanks will love you, DPS will love you, healers will love you. It's really a great ability for all controllers. So you have Psychic Resonance and Telekinetic Push. Now, neither of these you're going to use as a controller, but they unlock the latter abilities, which you do need. So I don't go into Telekinetic Push purely because Telekinetic Push is more DPS, and it's not great as a controller. So I go into Psychic Resonance, and the reason for that is I'm trying to get Cryokinesis. Wow, I can't speak. And if you see in there, you have Telekinetic Bolt, which is pure damage ability, and you have Mass Levitation. Sounds good for your controller class, right? It's going to pick up enemies. It's not. It uses a lot of your power. It doesn't pick up that many enemies, and it doesn't restore any power. So as a controller, I skip the whole of the middle part of the tree. Get Pyrokinesis. Great. That's a damage ability if you ever do want to switch to damage at any point. But the real reason you go into the left side is for Cryokinesis, which roots a targeted enemy into an ice block, reduces their target damage, and it will also affect any units that are in close proximity of them, either CCing them or reducing their damage. The best controlling ability in the game right now, probably because it can do 4 or 5 targets at once, and it also reduces their damage. So I go into Thought Bubble, because that is another CC. It's not a bad one, it's worth getting. But I'll show you why, because I mean obviously there's more abilities than you can actually use, and I'll sort of go into the reason for that later. So you have your Illusion spec. You have to put your first point in the spinning blades, whatever they're called, and then you have your choice of the 3 here. Now you want to go into Illusionary Forms purely because it unlocks your Terrorize ability, which is good because it reduces the target's damage as well as it terrorizes them, so it makes them essentially attack their allies, or they just stand still for a few seconds. It's just really worth having in general, and it has different effects depending on how resistant the mob is that you're against. So quickly skip that, go into Iconic Powers, because I just wanted to show that I had put a point in there. One that a controller definitely wants to get is Intimidating Gaze, and the reason for that is it's going to give you a 25 dominance stat, which is huge, and that is a stat that, I think I just stroked my mic there, that's going to sound weird. That is a stat that you want to have to do late raids and late hard alerts. You need about 200 of it before you can do anything, so an immediate 25 is a huge bonus. Now with the PowerPoints, I actually have more than I need, so I sort of just put them, I realized that, so I put one in Bastion, which is 100% supercharge ability, and it protects all teammates from damage with telekinetic bubbles. Now, it actually says it uses 100% of supercharge, but for some reason for me it's been using 50, so I'm not sure if it's broken, but that's why I put a point in it. You want to get Menace, which is the 2 skull ability, and the reason for that is it's going to increase the chance that you will be able to terrorize an enemy, and I hit my mic there. I do that in a lot of my videos, sorry about that. So yeah, basically that's going to mean your terrorize has a higher chance of hitting, which is good for mobs that have like a high resistance. And I also picked up the shield, which is essentially another type of Bastion. It's going to protect your group. I throw one in Gradeur because it breaks you out of any control abilities, and it's really worth it for some boss fights. You won't use it on all of them, but for particular boss fights it's worth getting just because it will break you out. My last 2 or 3 points that I just spent, these are all, so 13 points you have set, and then about 2 of them you can put where you want because you can only have 6 abilities anyway. I throw one in super strength purely because I love being able to pick up cards and throwing them. There's no real reason for it to help a controller, but I just like picking large stuff up and throwing it. It usually does quite a bit of damage. So your skill points, you have to pick what your main weapon type is. I don't know what you've picked, but mine is usually hand blaster. And the reason for that is it does have a dominance stat in it. So you pick whatever abilities you want. These don't really matter because these are obviously your damage that you're going to be doing with your combos. So you really just have to pick what you want here. The reason I go into here is because, as you can see, the later tier has a dominance ability, which if you put 3 points in it, is going to increase your dominance by an immediate 18. Well worth getting. And then the rest of them are just combos you can throw where you want. So I still have 18 skill points left. The one part of this that really is going to be different for everyone is if they have a different movement type. So if you have flight, if you have super speed or acrobatics, your points will be sort of dispersed a little bit differently because you've got to have your movement type, and they're all unique. So obviously I just throw mine in the left side, which is mainly your speed, force, things like that to increase your speed. In all of your movement types, they should have these later tier abilities, which is essentially a knockback resistance, recovery, so you'll recover 75 power after you break out of an effect. Things that increase your resistance to like stuns by 10%. Really, they're usually on the left side, so they're the abilities you want to go into. And on the right, there are damage abilities, some supercharge abilities. I don't go into them as a controller because none of them are that good, except on super speed, whirlwind, Devrish is pretty good. It's worth putting it into if you are sort of a controller with super speed, because it does restore power and does quite a bit of damage. So I still have 8 skill points left, and as you can see, I take a look at rifle. Now what I'm looking for is a dominance ability. Now rifle doesn't have one that increases my dominance. No point in wasting points in there. One I do know that has dominance in is staff, and it has its dominance at the second to last tier, so I don't have to put as many points in there to get it. So as you can see, there's another dominance ability, which means I can get another 18 dominance just by speccing into staffs, which is awesome. So I basically got 36 dominance from my weapons, 25 from a superpower. You don't need to have great gear, and you've already nearly pushed the 200 mark. And I still have 2 points left, so I just sort of throw them in a random combo ability, because that way you can do more damage while you're still being a controller. Now your combos and your weapon types, they're all based on what you prefer. There's no best weapon, there's no worst weapon. But if you're a controller, you want to try and go in one with dominance. It doesn't have to be hand bosses and stuff. I think there's some other ones, but you just want to try and find one that has those stats in it. Here's my loadout. Now this isn't me this is me setting it up, but the preset one that it comes with is just the way I've selected it. So I have 1 as telekinetic push, or not telekinetic push, telekinesis. 2 is physic empowerment. 3, that hasn't been changed yet. So 4 is my cryokinesis. 5 is terrorize, and 6 is my 100% supercharge ability, which is great for large damage deal. Now your third ability, your number 3, can be one of many abilities depending on what you prefer. If you want to put your whirlwind ability in there, if you're super speed, you can do that. If you want to put, what's the other one? Try to think of it here. If you want to put the telekinetic shield, or the thought bubble, that's it. If you want to put the thought bubble in there for another extra CC, you can do that. But basically that third ability is one that you can just move around depending on the fight. So that's sort of my controller spec, what I think is good. I'm by no means a pro at this game, but that's just sort of what I like.